Hello everyone, Dave here, back with another video. Welcome. Today I thought it would be fun to do a comic book collection video. Like a little preamble, because I guess it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't talk randomly about something. I obviously collect manga, a lot of it, mostly manga. That's the basis of this channel, manga and anime. But when I was younger, I collected a lot of more, I guess, traditional, quote unquote, Western comic books. And I realized that I got to a point where I kind of stopped collecting them. I had a massive collection. And I one day just these aren't getting any use. They're taking up a lot of space. So unfortunately, I sold them. I wish I was making videos back then, because I would have made a collection video for that, because it would have made for a decent video, but also it would have made for a cool time capsule for me, so I could look back and see what my teenage, early 20s self was reading at the time. And here I am now in my late 20s, which feels really weird to say, but here I am starting to slowly get back into comic books. I'm gonna stick with mainly trade paperbacks, I think, because they look good on a shelf, and also because manga is still my main form of literary collection. So I'm gonna limit my comic book stuff to heroes and stories that I'm truly interested in, and keeping it a little more concise. So that being said, my comic book collection isn't very big, but I feel like this is a good time to film it because, one, I'm just getting back into the hobby, so it's fun to see where I start versus where I can go. And two, about every March we do a manga collection video. And if my math is correct, at time of filming, March is about 6-ish months away, so that means about every half a year we're gonna get the manga collection update and then the traditional comic book collection update about a year from now. So it'll be interesting to see where I end up in about a year. So let's just get into it. So first we'll go through my only comics that I saved of traditional kind of floppy variety. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero of all time, always has been, always will be. So even though I sold all my comics, I kept my Spider-Man ones. So first we have Spider-Man and Wolverine, number 2 of 6. Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine, number 2 of 6. I haven't read these in years, so I honestly couldn't tell you exactly what they're about, and also because they're not complete series. I got these as a kid. I just saw the cover. I saw Wolverine with a pistol, and I was like, that looks kind of interesting. I don't know what numbers mean. 2 of 6, what does that mean, This one, Amazing Spider-Man number 351, with Nova in it, so that's cool. 1991. The Amazing Spider-Man Grim Hunt, Kraven Saga. Is that one? I'll get into more talking points. I'm just going through these. This one is an interesting one. It's like Spider-Man and Magneto. I don't know much about this one. Plus Cap and Cyclops. It's number 14 of this series. I don't know much about it. And this is a collectible series of I think the first Spider-Man, where he meets the Fantastic Four. This one is very flimsy, paper. It's just a reprint or whatever. Spider-Man was kind of a little pompous jerk back then. It was pretty interesting to see how far he's come. Now we think of Spider-Man as being this timid, gee whiz, I don't know. Back then, he used to be a jerk. Next, we'll go through some other little stuff real quick, just because they're comics, technically, not traditional superhero type comics, but we have two Far Side galleries. We have the Far Side Gallery, and then we have the Far Side Gallery 5. Gary Larson's humor is so funny. I love the Far Side. The dry wit and stuff is a big inspiration to me, because when I do stand-up, a lot of my humor is dry wit, puns, play on words. So I love Gary Larson's style of comedy. We have two Calvin and Hobbes collections, Calvin and Hobbes, and then Revenge of the Babysat. I love Calvin and Hobbes. I grew up with that. And then we have two Cyanide and Happiness books. We have Ice Cream and Sadness, and we have Punching Zoo. I like Cyanide and Happiness. Funny stuff. I don't know. All right, so now we got the less important stuff out of the way. Here's like the collection. This is what I'm gonna build off of, and this is what I'm starting with. So first, we have a very interesting take on Batman. This is Batman Crimson Mist. I know the text is backwards. I'm using my inverted camera. I apologize. It's the only camera I have, because the only way I have to film my videos is my phone, and it's kind of weird. Normally the outward facing camera is the better one on most phones, but for some reason it's not very good on my phone. It's the selfie cam is the best one, but it's inverted. I apologize for that. Moving on. We have Batman Crimson Mist. This is basically like, what if Batman was a vampire, sort of, and it's really cool. The art is really detailed, really gory. This is book 3, which I didn't even realize, because the story is so self-contained that it kind of starts and ends pretty, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's pretty, like, it's a pretty cohesive start and end. So growing up, I just thought that this was just a one-shot, one-off story, but apparently there's more. But yeah, the art really detailed. It's a really interesting take on Batman. Again, very gory, extremely gory, and it's scary as well. Like, I used to sit up reading this, like, under the covers at night and be like, oh my god, this is so spooky. Batman's supposed to be a good guy, now he's gonna come rip my face off. But I definitely do want to finish collecting this series, because I want to see what else they do with this. Because, again, it's book 3, so there's obviously more to it. Next, we have book 1 of the Injustice Gods Among Us story. I already know, I've played both Injustice games. I already know the story. I don't really see myself continuing to collect this series, but it's, you know, the Injustice storyline is super, super in-depth, interesting. You know, seeing the characters in a lot of different settings and in different light than we've ever seen them before, like Superman essentially being a tyrannical bad guy, and you know, a bunch of these characters getting, you know, dead is crazy. And you know, the DC universe is really open to its interpretations of like all these different characters and all these different universes, and it really like puts things on its head. And you know, the Injustice storyline is really cool. I'm sure you guys know the Injustice storyline. I don't need to go on about it. Next we have the official comic adaptation of the Daredevil movie. I know the Daredevil movie like wasn't that great. I didn't think it was terrible. I mean, it's definitely interesting. It jam-packs a lot in here. It's got the movie comic, it's got Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra #1, it's got Daredevil #32, and Spider-Man's Tangled Web #4. So it has the movie, but it also jam-packs a little extra. If you're a Daredevil fan, sure. I don't really, you know, love it, but it's been a series that I have had, a book that I've had for, well, pretty much my entire life. Like, I've had this book since I was a kid. I've read it and reread it so many times, because this is honestly, like, I think one of the first comic books I've ever owned, which is kind of crazy to think about, because I like Daredevil, obviously. Yeah, like, I'm like I'm a fan, but I'm not like a super fan. I wasn't like, oh my god, mom, dad, get me Daredevil. But it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see that this was one of my first comic books, and here we are, however many years later, and I still have it. These are the two newest additions to my collection: Nonstop Spider-Man and its follow-up, Savage Spider-Man. I haven't read Savage Spider-Man yet. Nonstop Spider-Man was really, really interesting. Quite literally nonstop action. I don't want to go too in-depth into it because I'm thinking about making a review, but it's just basically from the get-go, Spider-Man is going from one encounter to the next. They sprinkle in a lot of backstory to this, take on Spider-Man and into this universe that they set him in. But it's pretty interesting, and it ends with Spider-Man. I mean, this isn't really a spoiler because it's on the cover of this one. It ends with Spider-Man kind of sort of morphing into an actual man spider type deal. So I'm interested to see how that, works out in Savage Spider-Man. But yeah, there's that. But yeah, these two, I mean, Spider-Man, like I mentioned, my favorite superhero. If I was gonna get back into comics, it was gonna be through Spider-Man. So, Nonstop Spider-Man, and I can only assume Savage Spider-Man are gonna be a great reintroduction into comics and will help kick off my collecting of comics. Next we have Green Lantern, Tales of the Sinestro Corps. This is a kind of just one-shot collection of stories, a collection of tales from the Sinestro Corps. I like Green Lantern, but I don't know a whole lot. It's a little convoluted, to be honest. It's very wordy. Very cool stories. I mean, you've got, a lot of interesting stuff going on in this comic, but for me, I didn't dislike it by any means, but it definitely can be a bit of I don't even want to go as far to say boring, but it's definitely a bit of a read because there's a lot of talking, and especially for me who doesn't know a whole lot about Green Lantern, I was very lost and confused at some parts, but still overall pretty good. Next we have Shaolin Cowboy. This, I think I've read. I don't even remember. I may not have even finished it, but the art is so good. Like, look at this art. It's so detailed. I love kind of its, it's, obviously it's a western-y type thing, but like it's almost post-apocalyptic nature of it too. You can see some art on the back cover here. But I picked this up years ago because I thought it looked cool, and I maybe read it once. I don't even remember reading it, so it's definitely on my to-read list. I definitely want to read it again because it looks just super cool and fun, and if it's worth reviewing, I might even do a review of that as well. And last we have the Star Wars. I did do a review of this for Star Wars Day, I think 1 or 2 years ago. So if you're interested, that video is on my channel. But this is basically the official adaptation of the original rough draft by George Lucas. So George Lucas's first rough draft of Star Wars was this. It's very, very different, and it's really, really interesting. It's really interesting to see what potentially Star Wars could have been, because I mean this is a crazy story and a crazy interpretation of Star Wars, the original interpretation of Star Wars. So if you're a Star Wars fan, I highly recommend this because it is just super interesting to see what could have been. I really enjoyed it a lot. It's another one that I want to reread. But yeah, that's it. Like I said, very small collection, but it will be fun to see where we go, or where I go, or whatever. And a lot of them, admittedly, I didn't have that much to say about because it's either been years since I've read them or I haven't read them yet. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video because I felt like it's a good time to do it. both because I'm getting back into comic collecting and also because it'll be a nice 6-month chunk in between this collection update and the manga collection updates. So yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate the support on everything, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.